All right, my name is Regina Boyd. I am our RTG, that's the resource teacher for the gifted here at Dorothy Ham. And so, welcome. I'm going to talk with you about the screening and identification process and what that looks like at our school. Now, before I get started with talking about the program, please know that we have already started round one screening. We've been doing that this week and next week. So over the next couple of weeks, round one would be for those students who are entering Arlington Public Schools. And they were tested in back in November, and parents have already been notified, and if your child is part of that round one identification process. Please note that if you have not received a notice from me with the results, you will get that in the next couple of weeks. Like I said, we have meetings scheduled next week too. So this would be for our general referral. And gifted services, we identify in Arlington Public Schools, we identify students in four content areas. That would be English, mathematics, science, and social studies. But we also look at the visual arts and performing arts for grades 3 through 12, and that's visual arts and general music. All right, what does that screening process look like? Each year we look at the population of the school and we pull out a pool of candidates. And how that works is, as I mentioned, we've already started with the automatic referrals for students who have taken the COGAT and tested in. But also, students can be referred for services by their classroom teachers. Other personnel in the school may refer them. As parents and guardians, you may refer them. We have community leaders, meaning people who work with summer programs and Boys and Girl Scouts. Those are part of our community leaders who also can refer students. And students can refer themselves. So we have this referral process until April 1st. That's actually going to be the deadline for this particular school year. So if you are interested in referring a student, please keep in mind that April 1st deadline. Once the student is referred, then I'll actually create a portfolio for them. And what we'll do is we will meet as a team and we will start looking at the student holistically. All right. What happens with the process in APS? We really start these nationally normed assessments beginning in grade one. So as early as that, kids will take the Naglieri, which is a nonverbal test. Grade two is where we screen most of our kids coming in with the COGAT, as well as those that are new to APS. But there are also other tests that we will consider as part of this process. And this would be something that parents might provide the WISC or the Kaufman Brief Intelligence Test. Those are some things that they may do with outside professionals. All 6th through 8th graders will take that COGAT test if we already don't have one on file for them. So if you have a student in our school, unless you came in after November, we would have tested them. We're only doing one testing this year. And normally we may do it twice a year, but this year it will only be once. So we've already done it, but it doesn't mean that your child cannot be referred. It is, you can still refer your student, because I'm going to talk to you about the process and what that looks like. All right, so in addition to the testing, we also look at school-based achievement. So we're looking at the Virginia SOLs, and we're collecting that data to see how well they have done on the state test. We look at the school level. We offer a variety of benchmarks. Students take math, inventory. Now we take an HMH. We have the Virginia growth assessment that we take as well a few times a year. So we're looking at all of that data, and then we're collecting things at the individual level. So we're working on teams now, and we've got all kinds of students being recognized, different honors, and that would be one of the ways that we would use that information as well. The next thing we look at as part of the screening process would be your child's behaviors and the characteristics. So the teachers would complete a gifted behavior commentary. And so it's a document that talks about some of the characteristics and behaviors exhibited by the student. As the RTG, I actually hold training sessions to help them to identify and look for certain characteristics in students. So we do have training sessions on that to provide them with more information to know what to look for. And then we have a parent information sheet. So there are a lot of things that we don't see at school. And then you would be able to, as the parent, to provide all of that information. Your student may be doing some great things at home. You may see a lot of creative things happening. So when you get the parent information form, you can document all those great things that you would like for the committee to know. So one of the things I mentioned that there's a document, the GBC, or the Gifted Behaviors Commentary. There are 4 categories that we look at as part of those behaviors. The first one would be exceptional ability to learn. And so here are just a few descriptors. There are many more descriptors than these 3 that teachers have available to them to help them to decide. But in this particular category, we're just looking to see how quickly they're able to learn and adapt, how reflective they are and sensitive to their environment, if they're able to acquire language very quickly. We're looking in the next category at exceptional application of knowledge. And keep in mind, I have a much longer list than this, but if you are interested in knowing what some of those others, again, you can reach out to me and I'll be sure to share it with you. But also we're looking at the application of knowledge, how well they are able to interpret, translate, communicate, learn concepts, any type of role playing. And again, these are a variety from different things. It could be students who are ESOL coming in, we're looking at, it could be for artwork. So this is just a small list. Exceptional creative productive thinking. Again, looking at how they uh, uh, express their ideas in written work, orally, and we're looking at the exceptional motivation to succeed. That's another area. So again, I do have that available, and teachers are looking at so many different things in those categories. So yes, that would be our GBCs. And then we're looking at demonstrated performance. So how well your student performs when working with advanced content. Even if your student is not currently identified for the gifted program, we are a talent development school district. And so what that means would be that teachers are pre-assessing students, seeing how well they're doing on particular standards. And I work with students all the time, and they are not necessarily identified as gifted, but we see that they have promise and they may have mastered a particular pre-assessment, and I will work with them providing some advanced content just to see how they respond to it. Some of these include using sources like William and Mary. So I may do things like Jacob's Ladder with them, and as one of the strategies we've been working on recently, doing some problem-based learning. In social studies 6th grade, they've been doing a lot of analysis of primary source documents. And another area would be critical and creative thinking lessons. So the teachers are primarily being trained in critical and creative thinking strategies to see if they're able to do a variety of different ones, and they can see how well the kids in the class respond to it. And so that's one of the things that they look at too. Now, not only are we identifying kids for those content areas, but we're also looking at visual and performing arts. With that particular category, we start identifying kids in grade 3. And so oftentimes they will take classes, elective classes in elementary with art and music teachers, observing them, We take a look once they get to middle school, and we're looking at their products. What are they producing? They don't necessarily have to be in an art class either. Um, a lot of times teachers will share where students are working on other projects in their class, and then they talk about this is an extremely talented student. So, for example, we had eighth graders doing NaNoWriMo. They were creating books, and some of them created some amazing book covers just using their own talent with art. So, there are a variety of ways that we can identify that. We're looking at their grades as well and their music grades and how well they're performing. Maybe they are also demonstrating talent outside. They bring in recordings for us to listen to. So there are a number of ways they bring in their artwork. They also sometimes work with our art and music teachers, so they may be familiar with them too. So we use that along with the parent information form. But we have on the committee when we're using or when we're looking at visual and performing arts, we make sure that we have obviously the professionals in that particular area um, working with the committee. One of the things that we're doing in art, there's also art differentiation that happens. They do a number of open-ended projects. We have opportunities for kids to come after school to work with our art teacher, Miss Fitzpatrick. So there are opportunities there, but we have them in the classroom. Same thing with the music classes where differentiation takes place in the classroom, as well as open-ended projects where they're able to demonstrate their creativity. Oftentimes we see kids creating their own music. And so the music teacher is able to make decisions just as well based on kids who are creating their own music. So, what does this look like in terms of the decisions that we're making? Well, there is a 90 instructional day period that we're looking at kids to um, uh, kind of evaluate them over that time. Well, the good thing is we've been in school for some time, at least a semester now. So, if your child came in at the beginning, we've had some time, or the teachers have had some time to work with them. But remember, the deadline for the referrals will be April 1st. So that means we won't start meetings until after April 1st. And so therefore, there will be an additional few months that teachers will have an opportunity to observe your student if they are referred. And so once that identification meeting is held, then the identification decisions are sent to parents. We send letters home, depending upon what the outcome is. Sometimes I may make a personal call as well to follow up. And so that information is generally provided probably a week or so after we meet on the student. Well, what happens if students are found eligible? Well, identified students in middle school, we actually group them in clusters. And right now we have them in clusters of 10. That's the number that that's the expectation, is that we have them grouped with their intellectual peers. And if the screening takes place this year, then obviously this would take place the following year in terms of their being placed in clusters. And so I'm planning as the RTG with those cluster teachers, helping with differentiation, particularly for those kids who have mastered grade level content. And sometimes people ask if they don't see me, and they're like, well, have you worked with the gifted teacher? Well, primarily, a lot of my work is with the teachers and planning and assisting them, supporting them with lessons to look at ways that we can differentiate or how we can extend their learning in the classroom. So one of the things I always encourage people to do is to reach out to the classroom teacher and ask them, how are we working together? And they'll be able to talk with you more about that. And I say that because support may look very different depending on the grade level, the content area, the teacher. Sometimes I'm in more subjects than others, more classes, different grade levels. It just really depends. Sometimes we have students who are not found eligible. Parents are offered an opportunity to appeal the process. So we have a level 1 appeal, and that's where you would actually start with our principal, and she's on here now. And so you would follow up with Miss Ellen Smith. I would give you information about that. And if we are not able to resolve it at this particular level, but you do have a level 2 appeal where you would be able to reach out to our countywide gifted services administrative committee, and you would be able to take your appeal to that level. Before I move on, one thing I will say, if students are not found eligible, one of the things we do is we like to put them on a watch list because sometimes students need more time to develop. And if they need that additional time, we like to watch them if they're staying at our school and if they're going to be at our school the next year. Sometimes it's good to see what happens from year to year and continue to monitor them. So I wouldn't say that if they are not found eligible, again, keep in mind, because we're building talent all the time, even in the classroom, if they have particular standards that they're really strong on or skills that they're working, and they're doing really well with, they're going to get that differentiation anyway. They are still going to be able to work alongside many of those students in the gifted program. So I wanted you to be mindful of that. We have some resources that are available to you. There is a Virginia Association for the Gifted. There's a National Association for the Gifted. They have lots of articles. They have trainings for parents. Sometimes they have free trainings. I know the Virginia Association for the Gifted, they tend to offer free training. If you want to learn more about how to support your gifted child at home, I would recommend a couple of these organizations for sure. And then you have supporting emotional needs of the gifted, because oftentimes our gifted students have challenges that may be masking some of their giftedness or as a result of some of their giftedness. So just looking for different ways that if you're interested in supporting them. And so if you don't get those email URLs for the websites, go ahead and email me and I'll be glad to share them with you. And I actually have them on the Dorothy Ham website under gifted services, so they're also posted there too. But just in case you can't find them, you can always email me. All right, getting connected. There are a number of ways that you can find out more information about gifted services in Arlington Public Schools. We do have a gifted website. We are on Twitter and they often tweet things out there as well. So a couple of ways to connect. And so here is my contact information. Again, I'm Regina Boyd, and so that's regina.boyd at apsva.us. 703-228-2929. And our supervisor for gifted services in Arlington Public Schools, that would be Cheryl McCullough. So at this time, it's kind of short and sweet process, I think. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and take some questions. So if you have questions, if you can either type them in the chat or raise your hand. I'm going to stop sharing right now.
Miss Boyd, I see a couple questions in the chat. Here's
Okay.
one that my child was eligible for gifted services in elementary. He's in 6th grade at DHMS now. I'm not sure whether he's still in the program. Is there a way to find out?
Absolutely. If you would like to email me or yes, let me see if I do I have paper right here, because I was here right say I can look it up. If you give me your child's name, how about that? And then I can send you an email tomorrow. Did they put their name? Did they put it in the chat?
Hannah, if you want to put your name in the chat or send Miss Boyd an email, she can respond directly to you.
Absolutely.
There's
Absolutely.
another question here. What is the difference between advanced math placement, for example, Math 6 versus pre-algebra, and gifted services for math?
So gifted services for math works a little differently, and that's because when students are placed in the higher class, they're generally in there with their academic peers. So even with the Math 6, though, we have clusters in Math 6. Math 6 would be those students who are taking some of the basic math classes, basic math skills, but there are also some pre-algebra skills that are part of Math 6. Pre-algebra would be a higher course. And so again, you have clusters in there, and there would be, clusters of 10 kids in that particular group as well.
Here's another question. What's the relationship between gifted service and intensified classes?
So we are starting intensified classes beginning next year for grades 7 and 8. It is open enrollment, so the difference is that it is possible that kids who are not part of the gifted program, parents are still able to register them in those intensified classes, but they will be intensified. So the rigor and the thinking and the processing will be at a much higher level. So it's an excellent opportunity for those kids to be placed in a class. And so even though we have 10 in the clusters now, obviously the groups would be much bigger in intensified classes.
Here's another interesting question, and I think it's about the COGAT. The question is, do all students take the KBIT or only a subset of kids? If it's just a subset, are there thresholds on the SOL or other tests you're looking at?
So for the COGAT, we're looking for a score of 120 or above on any of the batteries. That's what we're looking for an automatic referral. We are also, but again, sometimes like today we saw 119. Well, it wasn't an automatic referral, but it also tells us a lot about the student. I mean, that's one question that could have been off. So but for an automatic referral would be 120. When we're looking at the SOL, we often look to see how close the student is to exceeding. So we look for above level performances in math. If they're taking the math inventory, we're looking for them working above level if they've taken the HMH or the VGA. So that's what we look for in terms of the scores. Any other assessments that you may have mentioned, people will from the outside, and I may have to look those up and see what would be the particular score that I would look for. And it would be something that we have it's not me specifically, but what our district will accept.
And that is all students take the COGAT, right? Every single student that comes through APS. Good.
Every single student. Absolutely.
Good. We don't want to miss
sure,
anyone.
Yes, if you're not sure, and if you're just curious, and if your child took it earlier and you're not certain, you can email me for that as well, and I can let you know what their scores are. If they were not found eligible in elementary school and they had a 120 or above, you can also mention that, but they don't necessarily have to have that for you to do this referral. You can, as a parent, you can still refer them. We're going to take a look at them holistically. So.
Here's another question about the transition to middle school if they're identified in elementary school.
Mm-hmm. So for the upcoming school year, they won't be eligible for intensified classes. But what happens is, of course, we get their gifted portfolio that they send the information over to us, and those students are placed in clusters. So we do get the information from the elementary school in order to be able to do that. And I get their information. I know for 6th grade parents this year, I sent a welcome letter just because a lot of times when people are transitioning in from elementary school, they're not quite sure. So I would have sent a welcome letter to let them know that their gifted identification transferred over to middle school.
Great. Once our child has been identified, is there anything we should do to help activate their engagement with the clusters beyond support at home?
I think just having conversations with your child that would be really helpful. And I'm trying to figure out ways to support this as well. And the reason why I say sometimes we offer kids extensions and I have to send the kid an email. It's like, hey, I'm ready for you to select an option for the extension, because what we're working on is not adding extra work, but it's like students are there are things that they won't do in class. They'll be excused from assignments in class because they'll actually work on the enrichment assignments. So I think having conversations with your student to make certain when they are given these opportunities that they take advantage of them.
And this last question is a great one. If a child is already identified as gifted, will they automatically be put in intensified classes next year for 8th grade?
Well, the course request forms will be completed. So parents have to complete the course request form. So no, it will depend on whatever that parent has identified or as, where they would like for their child to be placed. So they would not automatically be placed.
So it really is up to you, parents, to select the course that you think is most appropriate for your child. Teachers are happy to make recommendations, but it's really up to you.
Yes.
There is a question about DHMS clubs offer new opportunities and extensions. Will you be having a financial investment club this year?
So we looked at the financial investment club, and so I'll have to check on that. If you can type in your student's last name, we did look at that, and there were a couple of challenges with it. So I'll have to kind of follow up with you on that, but I do need to speak with Ms. Smith about it as well. So yes. So yeah, we'll see how that works.
We've got your name. That's great.
Okay.
Are there other
Any
questions?
other
No,
questions?
Yeah. Oh, wait a sec. Here's one. If a child is identified and gifted in a few subjects and not others, is there a reason to submit a request to evaluate for the other subjects? That's a good question.
Yes, it would be helpful. One of the things that I'm doing as I'm meeting with teams, I am asking them and I'm going behind them as well, just looking at those students to see if possibly they were only, for example, identified in English, yet I am seeing them show up in my social studies classes for extension because it's showing that they are performing well in social studies. And so we're having conversations. We do have a watch list that the teachers are adding names to students. They've already been submitting names for students. As I've been going through some of the round one screening meetings, they've been providing names of students who have not been identified in their particular content area. But if you would like for us to look at your student in another area, I would encourage you to complete a referral form. And sometimes I have a referral form from the teacher and the parent, so that's fine too. Other questions?
Just a couple of thank yous have come through. Oh, here's another one. Elizabeth says, sorry, I missed the first few minutes. Will the slides and links and referral forms be made available?
Absolutely. The referral forms are on the gifted services on my Dorothy Ham page where it says gifted services. So you can find the form there. And this video will be uploaded tomorrow. So you'll be able to get all of the information that you may have missed. Other questions? Sure.
Thanks. Yeah. Oh. Another thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Okay, it seems like people may be exiting. Okay, hold on, I see something.
You mentioned clusters are difficult to form, sometimes trying to meet language preferences. That's interesting.
Absolutely. But let me just say this, it's difficult to form clusters of 10. A cluster can literally be 6 to 8, and that's generally the average of what a cluster is anyway. But we have pushed those clusters to 10 because we were transitioning, um, for this particular school year. That's why we have them at 10. So yes, the language classes, music classes, those classes that are not offered often because we're sharing staff with other schools or the high school. It does happen sometimes with trying to place them. But again, with the gifted population at our school, I would say that we're fortunate enough to at least have clusters of 6 to 8, which is, like I said, the national norm. Any additional questions? You all are coming up with some great questions. Other questions? If you're still
Starting-
on,
Yeah, starting to lose a few people, but I'm not seeing any more comments. And you had 42 attend today. Oh, here we go. The test scores for the COGAT are not on Parent View. Where can we see them? They should be on Parent
They
View.
should be on Parent View. Yes, they should be on Parent View. I'm not sure why they are not. I think is it under documents?
It's under documents. Yep.
Yeah, they should be under documents.
If
If not, you're welcome to email me and I can share that information with you if you don't see it. So again, it's regina.boyd@apsva.us. Had to think about that for a minute.
all right,
If your
and
child is not.
go for it.
Okay. If child is not eligible, can we find out in which subjects where they refer to help them develop those skills? Okay, sure. And what happens sometimes they may be found eligible in some areas and maybe not in others. That information will be provided for you. Again, if your child is not found eligible in any particular area, I'll follow up and let you know. And we can talk about some of the things that you could possibly do to help strengthen them in that particular area. Again, I see that question coming in. Yes, for those who are, as they transition from 5th grade to 6th grade, that gifted identification from Arlington Public Schools transfers with them. If your child is coming from another school district, I would need to have that documentation if they were identified somewhere else, just so I can take a look at it and see if it transfers with them if it's coming from another district. Other questions?
There's one about science does not have standard test. How is this tests? How is this evaluated?
So we're looking at a lot of the verbal, of course, as part of the reading, the comprehension, and some of those skills. But in addition to that, that's why we look at students holistically. So we are looking at assessments, different benchmarks, test quizzes that are provided in the class. We're looking at their thinking. So one of the things I'd mentioned earlier in terms of some of the advanced strategies that we're using in our science classes, we are using a strategy with kids, QFT. We're using Jacob's Ladder. We're using these different strategies to see how the student performs, how they are responding. And oftentimes, as we're listening to them, just based on their responses, the discussions, and their thinking, how they're able to transfer the information, how they're able to make connections among the skills, the science teacher is able to determine that. Other questions?
We've had a couple people just come in. Regina, would you like to tell them about accessing?
Absolutely. So if you're just joining us, we are at the end with the questions. The we are recording this, so it'll be available tomorrow, and you can take a look at it on the Dorothy Ham website. Please check under Gifted Services on that particular tab, and you will be able to find the recording. And you're welcome to follow up with me if you have any additional questions as well. You will be able to find the referral form. It's located also on the website. If you're having difficulty accessing it, let me know.
Miss Boyd is very responsive. Don't hesitate to reach out. She is a rock star.
Other questions? I know it's sad. I sit with my computer and I'm like, oh, let me see. Up. I don't know why. All right. Other questions?
Pretty
Okay, we are
quiet.
coming. It's getting quiet. So that means we're coming near the end, it looks like. If you have additional questions, you know, and you don't want to ask them now, you're welcome to reach out to me. Other than that, I think we are going to wrap it up very soon because we're not getting any additional questions. So I'm going to say thank you so much for your time. Oh, thank you. So you will see Ms. Smith placed my email in the chat. And oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And I look forward to your referrals. And if you have questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Good to see everybody. See everybody. All right, I'm going to
Can you
stop
stop the
recording.
recording? Okay.